At 12:47 a.m., the dining room of Whitmore Prime finally exhaled. Crystal glasses stood like soldiers after battle, lipstick bruises on their rims, the scent of truffle butter evaporating into the cold air hissing from the vents. Lily Morgan stacked plates, listening to the kitchen die down one clang at a time. That was when she heard the other sound, metal on metal, coming from a place no sound should be coming from at this hour. "Ryan," she called toward the bar. No answer. The bartenders had sound out. The dishwashers were arguing in Spanish near the alley door. Lily followed the sound past the wine library, the wall of Bordeaux that always made her feel like she was walking past a bank. It came again, a clipped, secretive click, like a lock deciding whether to trust its owner. The hallway light buzzed. She pushed through the swinging door into dry storage, then into the small corridor behind it, the one staff never used because the tiles were loose and the air smelled like old lemons. On the left, a stainless panel she had mistaken for a vent in her first week. Tonight, it was slightly ajar. The hairs on her arms rose. Don't be a horror movie idiot, Lily told herself. Clock out, go home, sleep. But curiosity had a louder voice, and lately that voice had been yelling in her ear about taking risks, about becoming more than a girl in black shoes and an apron. She slipped her fingers into the crack and pulled. The panel pivoted like the page of a book, revealing a short flight of concrete steps angled down into a square of dark. The air grew cooler, older. Somewhere below, the metallic click returned and stepped, as if aware of her. "Anyone down there?" Lily whispered, already annoyed with herself because whispering made her feel like the kind of person who went down mysterious staircases after midnight. A second panel halfway down bore a keypad, matte and expensive. This was no vent. This was a decision someone very rich had made to keep something very valuable close. Charles Whitmore liked keeping things close. He kept a framed first review at the host's stand, the mayor's photo in his office, even his enemies close enough to drink his champagne. Lily had served them all. Her phone buzzed, a text from Ryan Brooks. "You leave yet? Heard Whitmore still upstairs with Victoria. Don't wander." She typed back, "I'm just finishing side work. See you tomorrow." She didn't send the truth. "I found a door, and behind it is either a ghost or a story." Above her a floorboard creaked. She killed her screen and held her breath. Voices bled through the ceiling, a woman's low and amused, "Victoria Hale." And a man's thick with whiskey and self-congratulation, "Charles." "No, our friends won't be nervous," Victoria said. "They like insurance. You're simply giving them a stronger policy." "And what a beautiful policy it is," Charles replied. "Locked up safe." Lily swallowed. Locked up safe. She looked at the keypad again. 4x4 grid, no brand name, no screws, all appetite. She reached out, touched the cool surface, then pulled back as footsteps thumped above the panel, close enough to shake dust from the jam. She backed up the stairs, eased the panel shut, and returned to the corridor, trying to breathe like a person who belonged here. In dry storage, she almost collided with Ryan. "You scared me," he said, though he didn't look scared. He looked like a coworker who'd watched enough of her choices to map their trajectories. "You shouldn't be back here." "I was grabbing linens," she lied. "You already rolled the linens," he glanced past her shoulder. "Whatever's back there isn't our business." "It is if it gets us hurt," Lily said, surprised to hear the edge in her voice. "What is it?" Ryan's eyes flicked toward the ceiling, toward the empire she worked for. "Whitmore Prime is a stage, as stages have trapdoors. Do your last sweep and go home." "Why are you still here?" He smiled without humor. "Because I know where the bodies aren't buried." "Not funny." "I wasn't joking." They walked out together into the dining room. The chandeliers were dimmed to a heartbeat whisper, casting puddles of light on the marble like moons on a black ocean. Lily collected a credit card slip someone had left, the tip obscene, the signature a careless slash. This room was a fantasy machine. People came here to pretend they were untouchable. "Don't let this place eat you," Ryan said, wiping the bar like it had insulted him. "It eats everyone." "I'm not on the menu," Lily said. He laughed softly. "Everyone says that." "What?" When he turned to lock the wine library, a folded note card slipped from under the register and hit the floor. Lily picked it up. On one side, a familiar monogram in gold. CW on the other, 4 numbers hand-printed in a blunt, impatient script. 0826. 826 wasn't a pen. It was a date, August 26. The night Whitmore's donor agreement was notarized, the same date that will reappear scrawled in the ledger margins. Her throat tightened. A date, a code. Charles's birthday was in November. The restaurant's opening was April. 826 meant nothing, unless it meant everything. "Ryan," she said, showing him the numbers. He shook his head. "No. You don't even know what it is." I know a fuse when I see one. Footsteps approached from the hallway. Lily slid the card into her apron pocket without thinking. Victoria Hale appeared first, perfect in midnight silk, expression lightly bored the way only people who always win can afford to look. Charles Whitmore followed, jaw set, tie loosened, money humming around him like electricity. Still cleaning, Charles asked, a smile that could slice fruit. I appreciate hustle. Almost done, sir, Lily said, aware of the sweat prickling the back of her knees. Victoria's gaze drifted over Lily like a scanner and moved on, but not before a flicker of something, recognition, amusement, touched her mouth. Cute shoes, she murmured, and it wasn't a compliment. Charles clapped his hands once. Turn the lights out when you leave. He and Victoria disappeared through the private door near the host stand, the door that led to the office, the tastings, the conversations that mattered. When they were gone, the room felt like a theater after the audience has fled, strewn with props and secrets. Ryan placed the bar key on its hook. Let it go, Lily. She nodded, meaning none of it. She was thinking about the panel, the keypad, the numbers in her pocket like a hot coin. She was thinking about how many times she had told herself she wasn't a coward, then proved herself a liar. At 1:21 a.m., she clocked out. At 1:23, she slipped back into the corridor with a roll of polishing cloths like a guilty offering to the god of plausible deniability. She opened the stainless panel and descended the steps, every cell of her body vibrating. The keypad waited calm as a shark's eye. Lily pressed 0. The panel chirped softly. 8 chirp, 2 chirp, 6. Silent. Her tongue glued to the roof of her mouth. She tried the handle that wasn't there, the seam that barely existed. Something inside thunked, heavy and decisive. The panel sighed and a segment of wall released with a breathy exhale, revealing the dark mouth beyond. Lily, a voice said behind her, low and careful. At the bottom, another door waited, thicker, hung on hidden hinges. The air was colder, with the mineral smell of a place that expects to be forgotten. Lily palmed the seam. The door opened an inch, resisting like skin. From above came the faint scuff of leather soles, in a second set, lighter, purposeful. Not Ryan. Harper, a woman's voice called down, amused and dangerous. Wrong name, wrong life, but Lily knew who it was. Victoria. The door swung inward, and what Lily saw made her forget to breathe. Harper, the voice from the stairwell, was velvet wrapped around a razor. Not my name. Whitmore's staff sometimes use the wrong name as a tripwire, say the decoy, and see who flinches. Victoria Hay lingered above Lily, amused as if the dark itself reported to her. The door in front of Lily yielded another inch, exhaling cold air that smelled like steel and paper. Whatever lived down there made her forget to breathe. I'm not Harper, Lily said, forcing a steadiness she didn't feel. Staff exit was jammed. I was looking for maintenance. That's not the exit, Victoria replied, descending with unhurried steps. That's a nest. She angled a look past Lily at the hairline seam of the inner door. And you're about to poke a mother hawk. Ryan hovered at the top of the stairs, caught between fleeing and staying human. Miss Hale, we're closing. I'll walk her out. Victoria smiled like a cat at a window. You'll do nothing until Mr. Whitmore is finished with his call. She gestured. Step away from the door, dear. Lily didn't. The hinge warmed under her palm like a dare. She edged it wider just enough to carve a narrow view. A climate-controlled room with matte black walls, a row of safe deposit drawers like a library of secrets, a glass table with velvet trays and haloing cool white light, a black ledger bound in crocodile. No cash, no jewels, information, priceless radioactive information. Cameras watched from the corners, tiny irises blinking red. Bag, Victoria said, softer now. 2 steps. Lily closed the door to a slit and obeyed. 1 step, then another. Victoria reached past her, pressed a palm to the panel. The door sealed itself with a satisfying click and the keypad went blank. She brushed invisible dust from the stainless edge. Mr. Whitmore calls it the archive. I prefer vault. Vault honors the gravity. What's inside? Lily asked, surprising herself with the question. It broke from her like a cough. Insurance, Victoria said, the kind adults keep. Ryan cleared his throat. We'll go. It won't happen again. It never does, she murmured, then tilted her head. Unusual night, MS. Morgan, Lily said. Her mouth felt dry. Lily. Lily, Victoria tasted the name, then studied Lily's face as if testing a memory. Something like curiosity flashed, then vanished. I admire initiative. It's tragic how often it kills people. Footsteps vibrated through the wall. The stainless panel upstream shifted a fraction as the hidden mechanism reset. Victoria's phone lit her cheekbone. She glanced and smiled. Showtime. Charles Whitmore appeared at the base of the steps, suit jacket open, the kind of man who expects architecture to part for him. Up close he smelled like good whiskey and old wood. His gaze skated over Lily, paused, and thinned into interest. "Evening," he said, voice warm enough to caramelize sugar, "enjoying the tour." "We were lost," Lily said. "She found the archive," Victoria added lightly. Charles's smile sharpened. Did she? He examined Lily like a restaurateur evaluating a new cut of meat. "Potential price. What's your name?" "Lily Morgan." "How long have you worked for me, Lily?" 7 months. And in 7 months, was there ever a day when someone failed to tell you not to open doors you didn't install? The reprimand landed like a gloved slap. Lily held his gaze. "In 7 months, I learned the place runs on rules. I also learned rules get bent when they keep a problem from being solved." "What problem did you think you were solving?" Charles asked, genuinely curious. "The kind where a door with a keypad opens itself after midnight," she said, "and whispers through the floor." Victoria's laugh was soft and clean. Charles did not laugh. He admired the spine, catalogued the cost. "You have 2 admirable assets, Miss Morgan, work ethic and nerve. One gets you promoted, the other gets you buried." Ryan stepped down one stair. "Mr. Whitmore, I take responsibility. I should have cleared the back corridor before closing." Charles didn't look at him. "You should have, but we're here now." He brushed a fingertip along the seam of the inner door, as tenderly as if it were a living thing. Curiosity is a kind of hunger, beautiful when properly fed, fatal when it eats whatever's closest. "I'll clock out," Lily said. "We won't be near this again." I believe you," Charles said pleasantly. "I simply don't believe circumstances." He slipped something from his pocket, a bone-white card with gold edges. He held it up between 2 fingers. "This fell near the register, somewhat espin sloppy." Lily's stomach dipped. The card with 4 numbers, 0826, was still in her apron, heat-printing gilt onto her hip. So what sat between Charles's fingers? Ryan's face tightened. Victoria accepted the card from Charles and glanced at the back. "Blank. Not mine," she said. "Not mine," Charles echoed, pocketing it, "but it will be." He turned to Lily again. "Here, S. What happens next? You go home, you sleep. In the morning you come back to work and no one knows this happened. You do not mention the corridor or the keypad or my presence below your feet at an ungodly hour. You do not imagine yourself a heroine in a conspiracy. You are a professional in hospitality. Understood?" "Yes," Lily said. "Say it like you might it." "Understood. Good." His smile warmed again like a heat lamp over a winter lizard. Loyalty is rewarded at Whitmore Prime, so is silence. Victoria moved to the keypad and laid her hand on it. The panel woke, accepted her touch like a pet. The hidden lock thunked. She didn't open it. She was making a point about power and about who had it to waste. "Walk her out," Charles told Ryan. "Use the main door." Ryan nodded. Lily started up the steps. Victoria let her pass first, a polite predator. At the top, Lily looked back. Charles hadn't moved. He stood listening to the building, to the stored thunder behind the steel. In the dining room, chandeliers were fully dark now, the room a galaxy of tabletops gone cold. Ryan shut the quarter door, slid the bolt, and exhaled like a guy who had just escorted a friend away from a cliff. "You okay?" "Not even a little." He studied her. "There are lines, Lily. Some you tiptoe, some you don't cross at all. This one, it's a canyon." "What's inside?" she asked, really. "What?" "I pour drinks," he said. "I don't read the ledger of the gods." At her locker, Lily reached into her apron and touched the card that shouldn't be there. 4 numerals pressed through the paper like braille, 826. She remembered Victoria's bone-white blank. She remembered the cameras blinking red. She remembered the glass table and the ledger, and like a needle catching something else. A small silver locket on a velvet tray, oval and familiar in a way that heated her cheeks. "Go home," Ryan said gently, "before the building remembers your name." Outside, the city had taken off its jewelry. Night buses sighed. A delivery truck yawned at the curb. Lily walked fast, then faster, the card in her pocket burning a square against her thigh. A black sedan idled across the street. The back window lowered an inch, then rose again. She told herself it was nobody. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, nice shoes. She stopped. Another message arrived, a photo. Lily in the stairwell, shot from above, body angled toward the door, profile lit by the keypad's ghostly glow. Time-stamped 1:24 a.m. The punctuation, courtroom clean periods, and the angle from an internal dome cam screamed hail. Next text, bring the card tomorrow. Alone. 1:00 a.m. Use the alley. Lily looked back at the restaurant, at the curated darkness inside. Her pulse thudded in her throat. She typed, "Who is this?" 3 dots pulsed, then vanished. No answer. A wind rose from the river, carrying the metal taste of rain. Lily slipped the phone into her jacket and kept walking, each step measuring out a decision she hadn't admitted yet. Behind her, Whitmore Prime rested like a beast after feeding, dreaming about everything it kept beneath its perfect floors. Tomorrow at 1, the alley would yawn open. And the vault would not be the only thing waiting. Tomorrow at 1, the alley would yawn open. All night Lily felt the countdown in her bones, a metronome under the city's weather. By morning the rain had flattened into a greasy mist, and Whitmore Prime wore it like cologne, sleek, smug, ready to be adored. Prep cooks sang along to pop radio. Knives drummed on cutting boards. The espresso machine hissed like a warning she refused to hear. Ryan arrived late, hair wet, jaw set. "You look like you didn't sleep." "I didn't," she said, polishing wine stems until they squeaked. "I got a text." He stelled. "From who?" "Unknown. They had a photo of me at the keypad. They want the card. 1 a.m. alley." He closed his eyes for a beat, then opened them with the calm that bar managers use when the fryer explodes. "Don't go." "I have to." "No, you want to. That's different, and it gets people dead." Before she could answer, the front door parted like theater curtains and admitted Victoria Hale, with 2 women in suits that probably came with security clearances. Victoria's umbrella dripped pearls onto the marble. She didn't look wet. Some people never did. "Afternoon, ladies," the host cooed. Victoria's gaze swept the room and found Lily with surgical accuracy. "There you are, Cinderella," she said. "You were such a night owl." Lily swallowed, the heat in her cheeks. "Good afternoon, Miss Hale. Table for 3. "In the alcove," Victoria said. "I'm allergic to eavesdroppers." Ryan lined in. "I'll take them." "No," Lily said quietly. "I've got it." She led them to the velvet-curtained alcove where donors whispered and politicians pretended they didn't, or a guillotine. "You changed your shoes," Victoria said. "I work on my feet." "How industrious," Victoria plucked a menu. "We admire industrious." The 2 women murmured about contracts and funding trenches. Lily poured water, hands steady, ears ringed with certain words. "Archive packet delivery." When she retreated, Victoria's voice followed her like a ribbon. "Miss Morgan." Lily turned. "Yes." "Bring me the black cod," Victoria said, then let her smile sharpen. "And if you're tempted to bring anything else, don't." Back at the bar, Ryan scrubbed a spot that wasn't there. "She's playing with you." "She's telling me she's watching," Lily said, "which means she's afraid." He gave a small, humorless laugh. "That woman doesn't feel fear. She leases it to other people." Lunch throbbed. City money arrived in wool and left in cologne. The rain stopped pretending and committed. By 4, Lily's phone vibrated with a message that only she saw. "Tonight's weather favors secrets. 1 a.m. sharp." She typed, "Who are you?" 3 dots, then nothing. By midnight, the dining room exhaled again. The crystal gleamed. The rich went home to their beautifully staged problems. Lily clocked out with trembling hands she hid in her pockets. Ryan blocked the back hallway with his body. "Don't," he said. "What if it's a chance to make it right? What if it's a chance to make you disappear?" "Then you'll be the last person who saw me," she said, trying to smile and failing. He stepped aside like it hurt. "If you're going, take this." He slid a slim metal clip across the bar. "It's a jammer. 60 seconds of camera fuzz if you push the button twice." She stared. "Since when does a bartender carry a jammer?" He met her eyes. "Since before I poured drinks." "What were you before?" "Someone who watched Whitmore turn people into assets," he said. 60 seconds, Lily, no heroics. The alley behind Whitmore Prime smelled like wet cardboard and old secrets. A single bulb buzzed over the service door, suffering. At 1:00 a.m., a black sedan slid in nose first and idled. Lily stood under the bulb and tried to look like nothing. The back door opened, not Victoria. A kid in a gray hoodie stepped out, 18, maybe 19, with a skateboarder's grace and a runner's alertness. He held a phone with a cracked corner and the kind of confidence borrowed from dangerous people. "You're Lily," he said. "And your delivery," he said. "You bring the card." She kept her hands in her pockets. "Who sent you?" He blinked like a cat. "Do you think I get names? Do you think you want names?" The sedan's window rolled down a whisper. A silhouette smoked. Lily's skin prickled. She took the card out, bone white, gold-edged. "What is it?" "A key," the boy said. "You want a demonstration." The service door opened from inside. No alarm, no groan. Lily's heart climbed into her throat. The boy led her into the back corridor. She hit the jammer twice. It pulsed against her palm like a tiny animal. Cameras blinked and looked away. At the stainless panel, the boy didn't touch the keypad. He pressed the card flat to a seam Lily hadn't seen, a concealed reader that woke like an eye. The lock thunked once, satisfied. The panel slid. The stairs sighed. "Your friend upstairs," the boy said, "only gets you this far." Ryan, the name inverted into a question she didn't have time to unpack. They descended. The inner door was a line in the dark. Billy reached for the card, but the boy held it back. "Clock's running," he said. "You've got 1 minute. Take a photo of the ledger's last page, nothing else, then give me the card and go home." "Why me?" she asked. He shrugged. "Maybe you're forgettable, maybe you're brave, maybe both." She pressed the card to the hidden reader. The door released like a held breath. Cold air rolled over her skin. The room was exactly how she remembered it, and worse. Drawers, velvet trays, the glass table under a soft white halo, the crocodile-bound ledger in its cradle like a sleeping animal. Lily stepped inside alone, and the door settled, half-closed behind her, as if the room preferred it that way. She lifted the ledger with both hands, surprised by its weight. The paper smelled like winter and smoke. She flipped to the place where ribbon markers kissed the spine. Names, dates, transfers, photographs printed small and precise, faces she recognized from news feeds and step-and-repeats. There were notes in a handwriting she thought she'd seen on a menu once. Whitmore's blunt, impatient script. She swallowed. The last page waited, crisp and untouched. "Tonight's weather favors secrets." Her fingers shook. She lifted her phone, framed the page, and the photograph on the opposite page caught her eye. A woman, younger, hair dark, mouth familiar in a way that made Lily's chest go hot and hollow at once. The woman wore an oval silver locket. Lily had seen that locket as a child in a photograph that wasn't supposed to exist. Her thumb hovered above the shutter. 60 seconds, Ryan had said. Her pulse counted them down and read. She snapped the shot. The phone chirped too loud in the dead air. She took a second for insurance, the way you do when you're certain you'll never get this close again. The door behind her whispered. "Time," the boy said. "One more," she breathed and reached for the locket on the velvet tray, not touching it, only wanting to feel that it was real. A fractional alarm chirp sounded somewhere in the walls, a polite cough before a scream. "No," he hissed. She slid the ledger back, smoothed the ribbon, stepped out. The door sealed with a kiss that sounded like goodbye. She pressed the card into the boy's palm. He tucked it away like candy and moved. Back in the corridor, the cameras blinked awake, curious again. The boy put a hand on the stainless panel and looked up the stairs. "Don't come back," he said softly. "Next time the house eats you." "Who are you?" she asked. He smiled, a little sad. "I'm already gone." Oh, the service door unlocked. Lily stepped into wet air in a night that suddenly felt too narrow. The sedan rolled away without screeching, an animal that didn't need to announce its hunger. She stood under the bulb until the buzz bored into her skull, then walked to the street on legs that didn't trust her. At the corner, her phone chimed. One new message, no number, nice work. Now keep your head down, he's about to set the table. Same clipped punctuation, same sender. He'll like to warn the pieces she planned to move. She looked back at Whitmore Prime. Upstairs, light bloomed in the office window like a storm trapped in glass. And somewhere below, the vault remembered her. Upstairs, light bloomed in Whitmore's office like a storm trapped in glass, and down in Lily's bones, the vault remembered her. By morning, the city had rinsed itself in cold sun, and Whitmore Prime put on its jewelry again, flowers fresh, brass bright, the white tablecloths ironed until they felt like armor. Lily arrived early, craving noise to drown the thudding replay of the night. She kept touching her phone, as if the photos inside might burn through her pocket. Ryan was already at the bar, sleeves rolled, eyes that tired blue that means someone argued with the ceiling until 3. "You came back," he said. "Where else would I go?" Lily replied, setting down her bag. "I need rent and answers." "Dancers don't tip," he said, then lowered his voice. Did you get anything?" She nodded. He led her into the quiet of the wine library between ranks of bottles like obedient soldiers. She pulled up the image, the ledger's last page, columns neat as teeth, signatures like knives. In the corner of the photo on the opposite page, the woman with the oval locket stared into the lens of a life Lily didn't remember but recognized anyway. Ryan whistled without sound. "You need to put that somewhere safe." "It's on the cloud." "You need safer than the cloud." "Where?" "Printed," he said. "Link can't be fished." She blinked. "You sound not like a bartender." He hesitated, then shrugged. "Once upon a darker time, I audited people who thought compliance was optional. Corporate or shorthand. I've read books they don't shelve. That vault is compromat with room service. Don't underestimate a man who collects leverage for a living." Before she could answer, the host called her name. Lily slid the phone away and followed the thread of her job back to the floor table, just like the text promised. The first tremor came as a question disguised as a favor. Miss Morgan, a junior manager, chirped, "Mr. Whitmore would love you to run tonight's chef's counter. It's a showcase, cameras." Lily swallowed. "Why me?" "Because he noticed you." Every instinct told her to run. Every bill said stay. "I'm honored," she said, and tasted metal. At 2, Victoria Hale breezed in, dry despite the noon drizzle, floating behind 2 assistants who looked like they knew where bodies might theoretically be stored. She drifted to the bar as if gravity owed her a debt. "Old-fashioned rye," she told Ryan, then glanced at Lily. "Cinderella with me." Lily followed her into the private dining room, walnut panels, a chandelier like falling ice. Victoria closed the doors with the confidence of a warden and set her cocktail down without looking. "Mr. Whitmore likes you," she said. "That is profitable. It is also dangerous." "I'm aware," Lily said. Victoria's smile was clinical. "Awareness is adorable. Obedience is useful." She produced a folder blue as a bruise and slid it across the table. "Sign the updated confidentiality addendum and take your promotion without breaking your neck." Lily opened it. The clauses were sharp enough to shave with penalties, liquidated damages, arbitration in a jurisdiction that sounded imaginary. "This is our lot." "Greatness is heavy," Victoria said. "We're offering you a stronger spine." "What happens if I don't sign?" "You'll still work the chef's counter," she said lightly. "You'll just be hungrier." Lily's mouth went dry. "And if I do sign?" "You'll be seen as someone who knows her lane." Victoria Landon, perfume subtle, dangerous as a thought. "You don't want to be seen as someone who changes lanes without signaling." Lily set the pen down. "I won't sign anything without a lawyer." Victoria's eyes brightened, approving and cold. "Good girl, bring one you can afford and we can ruin," or her smile tilted, "bring one I lunch with. Either way, you'll sign by dessert." The doors opened. Charles Whitmore filled the doorway like a verdict. "Ms. Morgan," he said, voice warm enough to make the air go soft, "I'm told you're captaining my counter." "Congratulations." "Thank you," Lily said. "I enjoy people who rise when they're called," he added. He gestured at the folder. "Signatures are theater. The real contract is appetite." He dismissed her with a nod meant to feel like a benediction. Outside, Lily pressed her palms into her apron and breathed until the room stopped tilting. She texted the unknown number. "What is he planning?" The dots appeared, then vanished, then returned. The reply landed like a pebble in her throat. "He's moving a piece from the vault to the stage. Stay close and don't blink." Service began with applause that hadn't been earned yet. The chef's counter gleamed, 8 leather stools, 8 curated views of mastery. Lily ran the ballet, timing courses like confession, narrating plates like spells. Behind glass, knives flashed, pans sang, and the dining room turned its eager face toward worship. At 7:43, the mayor walked in. At 7:50, a television anchor practiced being seen at table 14. At 8:03, Charles stepped into the room, and the volume fell in love with him. He made a small speech about ingredients and community, about how a restaurant is a promise kept nightly. Cameras blinked, people glowed. Then he did something he'd never done. He invited the press to join him at the chef's counter for a brief unveiling. The kitchen froze, then accelerated. A rolling cart appeared like magic, dressed in linen, topped by a black lacquer box about the size of a large book. Lily's skin went electric. The black ledger in the vault had a twin, at least in silhouette and sin. Victoria stood in the doorway to the private hall, watching like a sniper. Charles smiled for the cameras. "We've begun archiving recipes, stories, and sourcing notes from the city's most brilliant cooks," he said, palming the lacquer lid. A culinary archive, if you will, a vault worth opening. Lily felt the room sway. He was laundering the idea of a vault in public, turning menace into marketing. He lifted the lid. Inside, on velvet, lay a leather-bound volume embossed with the restaurant's crest, and a silver oval locket gleaming like a dame. For a heartbeat, the air left Lily's body. The locket looked like the one in her photo. No, it looked like the one in a childhood memory that didn't have a date, only a temperature. She gripped the counter until pain taught her to breathe. Stories matter, Charles said. We safeguard them because they are currency. A reporter asked about Providence. Charles parried, charming. Cameras chewed light. Lily's phone buzzed in her apron. Not the real one. He's baiting. Eyes on Hale. She glanced at Victoria. The lawyer's face didn't move, but her hand did, a small gesture toward the alley exit, like an orchestra cue. Lily caught Ryan's eye across the room. He shook his head once. Slow. Don't. She smiled at a guest. She poured wine. She counted heartbeats. At 8:44 the lamps flickered, barely a shiver. The music dipped and recovered. In the kitchen a prep cook crossed himself. Lily's phone buzzed again. 30 seconds. Hallway, alone. Every nerve in her screamed no. Every instinct that had dragged her down those stairs said go. She handed off the counter to a runner with a lie about linen refills and slipped through the side door into the service hall. The noise of the dining room dropped away like a curtain. The hallway smelled like lemon oil and secrets. She moved fast. At the end, the door to the back corridor stood open a breath. The stainless panel waited, blind and perfect. Lily touched the seam she knew too well. The reader woke without a card. Someone had primed it. The panel slid. The stairs exhaled. She descended into cooler air. The inner door was ajar this time, a mouth waiting to be fed. She slipped inside. The cradle where the crocodile ledger had slept was empty. The velvet tray where the locket had gleamed was bare. For a second the silence felt sentient. Her phone buzzed. A photo filled her screen, her mother younger, alive, wearing the oval locket, arm around a man whose face had been torn away. Caption, ask Whitmore why she vanished. A breath behind her, a hand closed over Lily's mouth. Don't scream, a voice whispered, they're almost here. A hand sealed Lily's mouth. Don't scream, the whisper breathed into her ear, they're almost here. She stiffened, smelling rain and metal on the stranger's clothes, and then recognized the cadence. Hoodie kid, the one who called himself nobody and left like a shadow. He eased his palm away. Jace, he said, as if offering a receipt. You've got 20 seconds before Hale's sweep lands. The inner door sighed as if the room itself were listening. Boots clapped on the stairs above. Jace tugged Lily into a narrow matron's alcove concealed behind a rolling rack of linen. A sliver of sight remained, just enough to watch the bult's mouth. Lily's pulse rattled against her ribs. The velvet tray where the locket had gleamed was empty. The cradle where the crocodile ledger slept was bare. She held her phone like a relic. Voices ghosted down. Victoria's cool, flat, surgical. I want confirmation. Then Charles, warm enough to blister. It's already out. Northline Storage, Unit B17 under the catering invoice. You're late to your own caution. There was a soft click of heels, the coded sigh of a radio. A third voice, security, murmured into an earpiece about cameras, rebooting, motion signatures, blind spots. Lily felt the jammer in her pocket like a sin. Victoria came into view, a silhouette clean as a blade. She studied the empty cradle with satisfaction, as if absence proved a point. Stage box worked, she said. They photographed the wrong prize. She turned, eyes sweeping the room. For one terrible second, Lily thought the gaze would pin her to the wall. It didn't. Victoria touched the seam. The door sealed. The stairs swallowed them. Air returned like mercy. Lily exhaled. That moved it. Hours ago, Jay said, tonight's show was for you. For anyone listening, Whitmore likes to turn bullets into fireworks. Then why help me, she asked. Why text me to be here? His mouth quirked. Not me. Different shepherd. I deliver, I warn, I vanish. That's the job when you're paid in distance. Then who? Later, he jerked his chin toward the stairwell. We ghost now, or Hale's janitors find us looking guilty in the dark. They slid along the narrow spine of corridor until cool air thinned into the lemon by of polished floors. Lily swallowed 1,000 questions to carry the one that mattered. She showed Jace the photo on her screen. The woman with dark hair, oval locket bright against her throat. Do you know her? Jace leaned in, surprise breaking his street calm. Elena Ward, he said slowly, like a memory being coaxed out of a locked room. Name floated in a case file I wasn't supposed to see. Went missing, officially not missing, which is worse. Why? She's my mother, Lily said, and the word mother vibrated like she'd said it underwater. Or she was, I don't know anymore. I do, he said gently. You're looking for her. I was trying to forget I was. He nodded once brisk, then Northline Storage is your next breath. They reached the service hall. Lily paused, hand on the door. If I go after B-17, I burn every bridge left in my life. Bridges are for people who trust the other side, Jay said. You want the ledger, the locket, the truth. That storage unit is where he parks his weather while the forecast looks clean. The corridor hissed. Ryan appeared at the far end, shoulders squared, eyes furious and frightened at once. You, he said to Jace, voice low. I told you to keep it simple. So fire me, Jace said without heat. Lily stared. You two know each other. Ryan's jaw flexed. He's a runner. Sometimes he's mine. Tonight he's an idiot. What? Tonight I kept her off Hale's manifest, Jace shot back. Where's my thank you cupcake? Out, Ryan said. He grabbed Lily's wrist, not rough, not tender, and steered them into the pastry prep where ovens slept like tamed animals. Flour dust floated in sunbeams that weren't there. He shut the door. What did you see? Nothing, Lily said, then cursed herself. Everything. He looked at her phone, saw the woman, and the anger in his eyes softened into something raw. Alina. You know her, too. I know her name is a bruise in places Whitmore keeps spotless. His voice dropped. And I know this. If Hal thinks you breathed near B-17, she write your eulogy on a napkin and fold it into your pocket. I can't walk away, Lily whispered. I already tried that once in my life. Then we do it right, Ryan said. We don't kick the door in, we make them open it for us. How? He thought for a beat. We seed the rumor that the ledger's duplicate is still in-house, mislabeled in the wine library. They'll pull bodies off Northline to sweep here. We go there while they chase themselves. Jace grinned. Chaos is currency. Finally a language I speak. Ryan's phone buzzed. He checked, grimaced. We're late. Press is moving to the office for Whitmore's archive tasting. Hill will lock the building from the inside for the exit. We need a leak. I can leak, Lily said. I'm the leak, which was only partly bravado. She had spent 7 months slipping through this place like a rumor, learning the speeds at which secrets traveled. Ryan moved to the pastry window, cracked it, and whistled. 30 seconds later, a busser sidled in with the dirt under the fingernail smile of a kid who'd outrun bouncers. You needed a rumor, he said, amused. I have legs. Ryan spoke fast, low. Tell the floor lead a courier mislabeled a crate of archival wine for the library. Make sure the kitchen hears. Then go home and forget my face. The kid vanished like a coin magic forgot. Jace checked the hallway cam on his cracked phone. 2 minutes, then Hale's dogs will nose the stacks. Lily stared at Ryan. The texts, the warnings. Was it you? His silence answered before his mouth did. The practical warnings in the archival wine rumor were mine, Ryan said. The photo texts with law firm punctuation were Hale. The one-word pings and alley logistics belonged to Jace's burner. Who are you? She asked. Trying to be someone better than I was, he said simply. Let me start by getting you out alive. The building shifted like a living thing, hearing a distant siren. Distant shouts, urgent then official, rippled through back of house. The rumor had ignited. Staff peeled toward the wine library. Radios crackled. Victoria's voice cut clean. No one touches the library. I'll handle it. Now, Jace said. They slid along the service artery to the alley door. Ryan keyed a bypass on the panel Lily hadn't noticed before. An older lock clicked like an old man clearing his throat. The alley exhaled night. They stepped into it and halted. Victoria stood between dumpsters and moonlight as if both reported to her. No umbrella, no coat, just silk and a smile that understood funerals. 2 security men materialized at her shoulders like commas. Going somewhere, she asked. Home, Ryan said smoothly. We're short on romance tonight. Victoria tusked. Ms. Morgan, you vanish so much. Her gaze flicked to Jace. And you multiplied. Kitchen break, Lily said, lifting her chin. We're allowed to breathe. Inhale on your time, Victoria said. Exhale on ours. She steady smiled at Lily. Tell me, do you believe in gravity? Does it matter if I do? Lily asked. It matters when you step off roofs, Victoria said. She gestured. One guard produced a small object from his pocket, bone-white, gold edges, the card. Misplaced, she said lightly. Careless. She tucked it into Lily's apron like a corsage. Keep track of your accessories. A phone buzzed, not Lily's. Victoria glanced and slid the device back into her clutch. Run along, she said. Tomorrow's another performance. I'd hate for you to miss your cue. She pivoted away, leaving the alley colder. The guards melted with her. Jace whistled under his breath. She just pinned a target to your chest. Good, Lily said, surprised at her own voice. Maybe more people will see me before I disappear. They walked fast to the corner. Jace peeled off into the dark with a two-finger salute, already a rumor again. Ryan hailed a cab the old-fashioned way, loud enough to convince the night they were ordinary. Lily's phone chimed, unknown number. A video appeared. Alina Ward stepping out of Whitmore Prime 19 years ago, face pale, hand on a belly Lily hadn't known to count. The timestamp burned, a man's voice off-screen, erased in the voicemail equivalent of a tear. Text followed, Pier 41. 2:15 a.m. Come alone if you want the truth he can't archive. Lily shut her eyes for 1 second, then opened them on a city that suddenly felt full of arrows. Pier 41, she said. Ryan cursed softly, then we're not done tonight. We never were, Lily said. And the river, black and bright, waited like a mouth. Pier 41 was a dark mouth swallowing the river and spitting it back as steam. At 2:15 a.m., gulls cried like bad omens and the wind tasted like pennies. Lily stood under a busted lamp and watched the water slap pilings in a tired rhythm. Somewhere behind her, a bar door coughed up laughter, then shame. The city pretended to be asleep. Headlights slid over the wet boards. A gray sedan idled, then went dark. A man climbed out with the careful movements of someone who had already lost too much. Mid-50s, close-cropped hair, a coat that tried to be expensive and failed at the cuffs. You Lily, he asked. I am's. Who are you? August Cole. I poured wine for Whitmore before the first star review. I poured lies after. He stopped a few feet away, palms open. I knew your mother. The wind punched her breath sideways. Elena Ward. His eyes flickered. You do look like her. Same mouth, same you dare flinch. Is she alive? I don't know, he said, and the honesty in it made her hate him less. But I know why she vanished, and why Whitmore keeps a locket in a velvet tray like a hostage. Talk, Lily said, before the night changes its mind. August looked at the water as if choosing a voice. Elena waited tables when Whitmore Prime was still Whitmore's gamble. She was bright, quick, the kind of person a room turns toward. He noticed. She thought she could ride the attention without drowning in it. Then something went wrong enough that a ledger got a new page and a girl lost her name. What went wrong? Someone used that vault to turn people into leverage, he said. Not just politicians, not just investors. Staff, Alina saw a transfer, a document, a signature that shouldn't have existed. She threatened to go to a reporter. Next morning won't scare him later. He took a slow breath. If she ran, someone helped. If she didn't, someone decided. The river clacked against a loose board. Lily tasted copper again, the way fear tastes when it pretends to be certainty. Who sent me the footage? I did, he said. It's from a camera that should have been erased. I'd kept a copy because once you've watched a person disappear, you start collecting ghosts. Why now? Because you walked into his archive like you were invited, August said. Because he baited you with a locket and you didn't break. Because if you don't learn what Elena saw, he writes you into the next chapter. A second set of headlights slid across the pier. No sound, just the suggestion of money. Lily's phone buzzed. 2 minutes. Alone is a myth. She pocketed it and faced August. What was on the page? An agreement, he said, a non-disclosure that bound a staffer to silence about the paternity of a child. It moved money from a shell company through a charity to a trust. The signature looked like Whitmore S., except the date didn't. The ground shifted under her shoes. Paternity of which child? He looked at her mouth again, sorrow in the angle of his face. That's what Elena wanted to tell the reporter. A new voice cut the night, and that's what August will not be telling anyone else. Victoria Hale stepped out of the dark like a verdict, silk unbothered by salt air, 2 security men hanging back like punctuation. She didn't look surprised to be there. She looked bored that the scene required her presence. Counselor, August said, tired, still cleaning up other people's appetites. Still romanticizing the mess you helped make, she studied Lily. You're hard to shepherd. I keep leaving you at the edge of a path, and you keep choosing cliffs. I prefer views, Lily said. And I prefer leverage, Victoria replied. Give me the phone. Lily didn't move. Get a warrant. Victoria smiled without heat. Here's my papers, she said, producing nothing but authority. You're on my clock. If I want the device, I take the device. But I came for conversation, not confiscation. A sedan door shut. Ryan walked into the lamplight, hands up, face carved with regret Lily hadn't authorized him to feel. I told you not to come alone. You followed me, Lily said. I followed the storm, he said, and the part of me that still thinks I can fix weather. Victoria's eyes gleamed. Perfect, all my favorite strays. Back off, Hale, August said. You play law, this is a river. This is a ledger, she said softly, and I am the hand that turns the page. Lily felt the night narrow. Why bait me with the lock? Because I wanted to see if you'd run toward fear or from it, Victoria said. Because you wanted to see, too. Charles, she said simply. He's curious about the people fate sends to his door with unclaimed names. Is he my father? The question left Lily's mouth like a thrown glass, and the shatter lived in everyone's eyes for a beat. Victoria didn't blink. No, she said, but I needed you to ask. August closed his eyes. Hale. What? Victoria's voice softened into something almost kind. You wanted truth. Truth first dislocates the jaw. She glanced at Ryan. Tell her. Ryan looked like a man about to drink something that didn't want to be water. Lily, my real last name isn't Brooks, he said. It's Whitmore. The pier lined, you're his. Son, he said, and the word dropped through the boards. Unacknowledged, inconvenient, useful when he needs a soul patched into the plumbing. I took a different name because I wanted a different life. I failed, I keep failing. Victoria actually smiled, a small, predatory proud. He's good at pouring drinks in plausible deniability. You planted him near me, Lily said to her. Not at first, Victoria said. At first he planted himself, then I noticed the roots. She drifted a step closer. Don't punish him for the geometry of his birth. Punish him for the choices he makes from here. You used me, Lily said to Ryan, every syllable sharp. All the warnings, all the don't go. It was you making sure I went exactly where you needed me to go. He took the blame like it had been waiting for him. I needed you to see enough to run. I needed him to underestimate you long enough to trip. I thought I could steer the storm. I'm sorry. Sweet, Victoria said dryly. Apologize on a pier. Women love that. Why are you helping me? Lily asked her. You keep saving me just enough to keep me breathing in a trap. Because I like the way you aim, Victoria said. Because I don't enjoy watching men become gods. Because sometimes the cleanest way to bleed a monster is to feed it a blade that looks like dessert. Then give me the page, Lily said. The agreement, the date, the signature. It's in Northline, Victoria said. B17 is real. It's just not where you think in the grid. Whitmore bought the map maker. Why tell me? Because I'm tired, she said. Because the archive turned into a church and I don't pray to men. She tilted her head. Because if you open it, I don't have to. A horn blew far out on the river, a wail disguised as steel. August glanced behind Victoria, a flick of eyes that meant someone else was arriving, and soon. We're out of time, he said. Then here's the rest, Victoria said quickly, voice barely more than breath. The paternity clause didn't protect Charles. It protected a donor whose money launched his first expansion, and whose name would poison every politician in his book if it surfaced. Elena found the conduit. She confronted the wrong person in the right hallway. After that, she didn't work there anymore. Who was the donor? Lily asked. Victoria opened her mouth. Blue strobes splashed the end of the pier. 2 private security SUVs slid into view, sleek as sharks. Men got out with the posture of hired storms. Behind them, a taller silhouette adjusted his cuffs and let the river light find his face. Charles Whitmore smiled like he owned the tide. Children, he called, voice easy, delighted by the tableau. What a family reunion. Ryan stepped between Lily and the light. August swore. Victoria's face became a mask that did not blink. Lily, Charles said, warm as whiskey, bring me my son. Lily felt the river rise in her throat. And then the first siren she'd been waiting for all night finally found the pier. Sirens licked the pier blue while the river breathed diesel and salt. Charles Whitmore didn't flinch. He stood with one hand in his pocket like he rented the night. Behind him, private security formed a parenthesis of muscle. Victoria's eyes didn't leave Lily. Ryan shifted closer, an instinct older than his new last name. August Cole looked like a secret about to be erased. The siren grew, then cut, and Harbor Patrol idled 20 yards out, present, visible, uninterested in private gods. Charles smiled at the boat or camera. New York loves a story, he said. Let's Mistress one beautiful. Bring me my son, he had called. Now he corrected himself with a showman's grace. Ryan, enough wandering, come home. Ryan didn't move. He kept himself between Lily and the man who had built a city out of appetite. Home is a place, not a payroll, Ryan said. Charles's smile cooled. You're angry. I'm awake, Ryan replied. Victoria stepped half a pace forward, voice low enough to sound kind. Gentlemen, the pier is not a conference room. Her gaze found Lily again. Walk away and I'll pretend you did. Lily tasted every door she had ever been told not to open. She thought of the ledger, of the locket, of the torn photograph that left a man's face missing like a tooth. She confronted the wrong person, Victoria had said. Maybe the right person was standing in front of her now. Harbor Patrol barked something routine over a loudspeaker and began a slow circle, more warning than rescue. August leaned toward Lily. Be 17 before sunrise, he whispered. He'll move it again after press at noon. Charles's head tilted, scenting a chessboard, rearranging pieces where he couldn't see. Miss Morgan, he called, warm again, come up to the restaurant tomorrow at 11. We'll talk about your future. Bring whatever story you think you have. It was an offer dressed as mercy. It was also a leash. Lily looked at Ryan. He gave a breath that wasn't quite a nod. She's not yours to summon, he said. File your invitations through counsel. Victoria's mouth curved. Delicious, we'll calendar a deposition on the moon. She gestured to guards ease back. Power had been displayed, which is how power eats. Lily forced her voice steady. What happened to Elena Ward? Charles held her eyes, then glanced at the Harbor Patrol boat as if deciding what angle the story wanted. She made a choice, he said. She left. August laughed once, a sound that hurt. After she signed your page, Charles ignored him like weather. You're brave, Miss Morgan, he said. Bravery is mispriced in this market. His eyes slid to Ryan. Walk with me, he told his son. We'll make something honest out of your talent, he said. It just won't help you. The blue lights receded, leaving the river to its usual secrets. Charles checked his watch, bored now, the most dangerous mood he had. Tomorrow at 11, he repeated. Don't be late. He turned and walked to the SUVs, security folding around him like automatic doors. Victoria lingered. For what it's worth, she said softly to Lily. I don't think he's your father either, but he is the reason you need one. Then she was gone, silk-swallowing night. Ryan let out a breath he'd been holding since he was 12. I should have told you, he said. Every part of this is my fault. No, Lily said. Some parts are older than both of us. August stared at the black water like it might confess. Be 17, he reminded. Sunrise. We split. August would find them a keycard and a map that wasn't doctored. Ryan would source a van and a story. Lily would try to sleep, fail, and then decide not to. Dawn came in gray, thin as hospital coffee. Northland storage sprawled under an elevated highway like a thought someone didn't want to finish. Workers smoked in neon vests. Cameras blinked with suburban politeness. August handed over a fob from a friend who used to label boxers. Ryan drove slow, a delivery logo magnetized to the van like a costume. Lily sat shotgun, cap low, heart higher. If Part 6 had broken her bones, Part 7 would decide if they healed crooked. She kept seeing Alina's locket where the crocodile book had been, a moon on velvet. Unit B wasn't in B row. It lived behind a false wall in D, the map stuttering where money had rewritten the alphabet. August's friend had circled the air with a pen. Trust the dust line, not the stencil. They found the dust line. Ryan slipped the fob. The door hesitated, then allowed itself to be opened. The unit smelled like old paper and colder decisions. Boxes stacked to shoulder height. A metal drawer cabinet held the back wall like a secret too heavy to stand alone. On top sat a velvet tray and an empty oval where a locket should have gleamed. Another locket where the same moved again. Everything here felt like a rehearsal of loss. Ryan opened the cabinet. Inside, hanging files labeled in Whitmore's impatient hand. Alina Ward's staff incident archive. He froze. Lily took the file, breath small, and found a photocopy of a non-disclosure, a trust routing, a prenatal appointment receipt, and a grainy photograph of a man's profile caught in a convex mirror. Whoever took it had aimed for the woman and captured the ghost beside her. Under the photo, a name scrawled, then scratched out. Under the scratch, in a different pen, donor. Her stomach dropped through the cement. She snapped photos fast, hands shaking. August hissed from the hall. Company. Footsteps 4, maybe 5. Ryan killed the light. The unit held its breath. Shadows flitted against the corrugated door. Search DB's decoy, a voice ordered. Female, crisp, Neb Victoria S. Their jackets wore a discreet KRP chevron. Clyde Risk Partners, Whitmore's off-book security. A second voice laughed. Boss thinks we're stupid. Keys clicked against metal. A lock whined 2 units down. Ryan leaned close, whispering into Lily's hair. On my count, shove the file into your jacket and run loud, not quiet. Quiet gets chased, loud gets witnessed. She nodded in the dark. 3, 2, 1. He slid the door up with a crash that translated to innocence. We're just movers, late and clumsy. Light stung their eyes. The yard loomed with startled men. Delivery, Ryan barked. Wrong row. They ran, not at the exit, but across, forcing witnesses, smokers, a couple fighting by a hatchback, a custodian hauling a mop. Shouts followed. A hand grabbed Lily's sleeve. She spun out, leaving fabric behind like a small ghost. They tumbled in, doors bit shut, breath returned like knives. Ryan pressed the fob into Lily's palm. Now we make him choke on his own archive, he said. Lily's phone buzzed. 11 a.m., press room, microphone waiting. The text on Lily's screen glowed like a dare. 11 a.m., press room, microphone waiting. She tucked the copied pages inside a manila folder and felt the paper throb against her ribs with every step. Ryan drove, eyes flicking to mirrors like they might confess. August followed 2 cars back, a rolling alibi. Jason promised to be fog, present, ungraspable, everywhere the light was. Whitmore Prime had dressed for absolution, PR banners, an arrangement of white peonies big enough to erase memory. The press room was a repurposed private dining space where famous people usually whispered. Now cables crawled across the floor and cameras blinked like curious owls. Charles stood near the podium laughing with a network anchor, pose practiced, sleeves rolled, jaw clean, benevolent predator. Victoria Hale moved through the crowd the way a scalpel moves through gauze, deliberate, precise, already leaving a seam. Lily swallowed air. If I freeze, she said to Ryan, say my name. I'll do one better, he murmured. I'll stand next to you. A handler clapped for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Whitmore will make a brief statement about a remarkable new stewardship initiative. Then he'll take questions. The handler's smile suggested objections were an aesthetic choice. Charles stepped to the mic and the room's noise arranged itself around him like worship. Thank you for coming, he said, voice of velvet handshake. Restaurants don't just serve food, they serve stories. Today we begin preserving those stories, recipes, sourcing the human craft behind our city's table, in an archive any museum would envy. A linen-draped cart glided beside him as if summoned by a higher law. On it sat the black lacquer box Lily had seen the night before, a theatrical twin to a monster she now knew by smell. You're watching an act of civic love, he continued, not secrecy. Lily heard her heart count down. She remembered the storage unit, the scratched-out name under donor, the prenatal receipt, the locket's oval absence, the smell of old decisions. She remembered a girl in a convex mirror and a man whose profile had been punished into fog. She lifted her hand. Question, Charles said, delighted. Yes, MS. Lily Morgan, she said into a microphone someone didn't want her to reach. Her voice trembled and found a lower gear. Server, 7 months. I have a question about another archive, the one under your restaurant behind a keypad where information is currency. The room drew breath the way a theater does when a trapdoor opens. Camera operators angled for blood. The anchor's smile froze like frosting in a snowstorm. Victoria tilted her head as if testing a note. Charles didn't blink. We keep invoices in the basement, he said lightly. We keep secrets in the kitchen. Neither belongs on camera. Lily held up the manila folder. Elena Ward, she said, and the name shifted the air. Employee, 19 years ago, signed to a non-disclosure and gone by morning. A trust rooted through a charity to a donor. A page you filed like a recipe you hoped no one would taste again. What? A ripple moved through the press the way water moves when a fish changes its mind. Ryan stepped to her side, not touching, visible enough to force witnesses into the frame. August took a spot near the back exit and did what old waiters do best, made himself necessary without becoming identifiable. Charles offered a patient smile. Conspiracy is the poetry of the underpaid, he said. Ms. Morgan, I'm sorry you feel. Don't talk to me about feelings, Lily said louder. Talk to me about the vault. She placed the photocopies on the podium. The top page bore the header Billionaire Ward Staff Incident Archive in Whitmore's impatient hand. The camera on aisle 2 zoomed so hard the room could feel its lens. Victoria moved at last. She walked to the podium at an unhurried pace and faced the press, not Lily. Chain of custody matters, she said, voice soft enough to make microphones lean. Photocopies are theater, originals are truth. Anyone can type a name and pretend the paper bleeds. Then open the vault, Lily shot back. Victoria looked at Charles. The exchange was a conversation without nouns. He inclined his head half an inch, the distance between command and consent. She turned to the room. We welcome transparency, she said. This institution has nothing to hide. The lie was so elegant it sounded like a prayer. Jace appeared in the back row, hoodie up, hands in pockets, eyes smiling like a fire escape. Lily felt steadier. A reporter shouted, Miss Hale, do you deny there's a secure room beneath the restaurant? She smiled. I confirmed that great businesses have safes. Another is Whitmore Prime, a pass-through for political money. Whitmore Prime is a pass-through for soufflés, she said. Laughter broke, brittle and grateful for permission. Lily's throat tightened. She saw the moment slipping into narrative, her mother's name becoming content. Elena Ward is not ungrateful for permission. Lily's throat tightened. She saw the moment slipping into narrative, her mother's name becoming content. Elena Ward is not a soufflé, she said. She was a person. If she ran, say why. If she didn't, say where she went. Silence again, sharper. Charles took a step toward Lily that felt like a step into every kitchen he had ever ruled. Miss Morgan, he said warmly, you are young. Youth confuses attention with truth. Attention is a flash, truth is a ledger. You've been given pages you don't understand. Come upstairs after this and I'll explain. Explain why a locket that matches her sat on your velvet tray, Lily asked, voice cracking. She didn't care. Explain why you baited me with a prop last night while you moved the original to Northline. For the first time, muscle in his jaw clicked. Victoria cut in, surgical. Allegations about storage facilities are for law enforcement, not lunch. So call them, Lily said. We already did, Victoria replied. The room turned, almost physically, toward the double doors. They didn't open yet. The moment hung, a downbeat waiting for baton. Ryan leaned toward Lily. You did it, he whispered. Now breathe. She couldn't. Memory squeezed her lungs, a child's picture of a woman at a window, the oval flash at her throat, the way unasked questions ferment into poison. If I'm wrong, she said to the room, I'll leave this industry. If I'm right, he should. Charles regarded her as if measuring a custom suit. You're brave, he said softly. Bravery without information is arson. Bravery with information is useful. He looked out over the press. Since we enjoy theater, let's perform transparency. Miss Hale. Victoria raised a hand. An assistant wheeled out the familiar lacquer box. Cameras land. She opened it with courtroom care. Inside lay a leather-bound culinary archive volume, and now the oval locket gleaming like a small moon made of deer. We keep mementos from staff who became family, she said. This one was left in an envelope. Open it, Lily said. Victoria snapped the hinge and palmed a folded card from inside. She didn't hand it to Charles. She handed it to the nearest reporter. Chain of custody, she said. The reporter unfolded it. Reed blinked and held it up. A simple note to whoever remembers, keep this safe. E.W. The room gasped, the unit of shock designed for broadcast. Charles's smile returned, pure oxygen. See, he said, stories, stewardship. Lily's legs wobbled and held. Read the back, she said, steady again. The reporter flipped the card. On the reverse, in a different hand altogether, Newer Inc., Archive Ledger B17, Trust Routing, New Aldean Front. Donor initials, HM. The room fractured, questions collided in the air. Charles went still, then knelt. A heartbeat of undress crossed his face. He covered it with annoyance at an underling who would soon be history. Victoria's eyes didn't move. Her mouth did, barely. Interesting. Who is HM? Someone shouted. Ask the governor, someone else yelled, braver than their credential. Charles raised both hands. This is a circus, he said, finally angry enough to crack the varnish. Anyone can stage a plant. Miss Morgan, you are suspended pending investigation. Great, Lily said, then I have time to testify. The double doors opened. Badges walked in. Not in YPD blue, dark windbreakers. The letters on their chests made the room forget how to swallow. Agents fanned left and right with the choreography of people who have rehearsed for years. The lead held up a document that liked being important. Federal warrant, she announced. No one leaves. Step away from computers, phones, and that box. Victoria's laugh was almost soundless. You did call them, Lily whispered. I told you, Victoria murmured, eyes on Charles, voice like silk pulled through a ring. Sometimes the cleanest way to bleed a monster is to let paper do the stabbing. Charles turned to his son. For a moment he was only a father who had underestimated the weather. Ryan, he said softly, don't. Ryan didn't answer. He took Lily's hand, the first touch all morning, small and defiant as a candle. An agent lifted the locket with gloved fingers. Another sealed the box. A third approached the podium and looked at Lily. Miss Morgan, she said, we have some questions. Lily's mouth went dry. So do I. Good, the agent replied. Ask them on the record. Somewhere behind the cameras, Jace ghosted into a grin. August exhaled a prayer he didn't believe in. Victoria stepped back from the blast radius, satisfied and unreadable. Charles smiled one more time, the smile that had bought mayors and terrified sous chefs, and found it didn't move anything anymore. And then the power flickered once, twice, like a beast taking a last breath before it bites. The power flickered again once, twice, like a beast taking a last breath before it bites. Agents snapped to attention. A hush rippled through the press room, the kind that makes camera operators hold their breath and anchors practice neutral faces. "Kill switch," Ryan murmured. Victoria's eyes tracked the ceiling grid as if she could see the wiring. Charles smoothed his cuff and smiled at the lights failing to obey him. "Faulty ballast," he said, because he could not help narrating. The lead agent, compact, unblinking, raised her voice. "Teams 1 and 2 basements, secure the archive and server racks. Team 3, control room." She turned to Lily. "You opened it before, you know the path." Lily's mouth went dry. "The corridor behind dry storage, stainless panel, keypad with a 4x4 grid," she said. "There's a hidden reader, bone-white card with gold edges." Victoria's glance flicked to Lily's apron, to the place where she herself had tucked the card like a corsage. "Chain of custody," Victoria said. "She doesn't touch a thing." The agent didn't blink. "Then you walk," she told Victoria. "You put your hand on every surface we need, and if you ghost, we knock down every wall." Victoria's mouth curved. "At last, a woman after my heart." She unlatched the lacquer box, retrieved the card, and palmed it like a queen, revealing a trump. They moved Lily, Ryan, Victoria, 2 agents, through the service hall past the lemon oil and whispered scandals. The stainless panel looked innocent, which is what guilt wears at work. Victoria pressed the card to the seam. The reader woke like an eye. The lock thunked. Cold air breathed out. "Stay behind me," an agent said. "If anything hisses, hold your breath." "Great pep talk," Ryan muttered. "I've heard worse," Lily said, and surprised herself by almost grinning. Down the steps, the inner door stood ajar by an inch. Heat shimmered from the seam, faint and wrong. Inside, the room hummed. "Thermal plates," Victoria said tightly. "He's warming the drawers, not incineration, proof of accidental degradation." "Cut power," an agent ordered into her mic. "Already on it," another voice crackled from control. The hum softened, then returned like a stubborn thought. "Local battery," Victoria said. "He planned for outages. He always plans." The agent produced a telescope and baton and wedged the door fully open. The archive glowed under its halo, a chapel built for sins that think they're economics. Drawers twitched with spidery impatience. Lily stepped to the glass table and stopped. An envelope sat in the cradle where the crocodile book had slept. EW scrawled in a hand she recognized from a lifetime she tried to forget. "Alina," she breathed. Her fingers twitched. "Don't," Victoria warned. "Photo first." "The agent's Bodicam land," Lily read aloud to make it real. "If you're seeing this, it means I lost too loudly or ran too late. I'm sorry. The ledger copies are on microfilm in drawer 9. The locket is not mine to give back. I left a piece of it anyway." She swallowed. "There's a tape." Ryan found drawer 9, yanked, swore. "Locked." Victoria pressed the card to a slot hidden under the pull. The drawer surrendered with a sigh. Inside, plastic canisters labeled in Whitmore's impatient script. Another envelope thinner, addressed to LM. Lily's name. Her throat closed. She slid the envelope free. Inside lay a photo, Elena younger, tired, defiant, and a tiny oval shard of silver with a broken hinge, the missing piece of the locket. A sticky note clung to the photo. "Keep choosing. You were born that way." Lily blinked hard, vision trembling into ripples. "Bag it," the agent said gently. "On the record." The hum surged. One drawer ticked into a low alarm. "He tied thermal to tamper," Victoria said. "This is Theodore Larson. Kill local," the agent ordered. "We can't," Control answered. "It's not on our panel." Ryan scanned the baseboards, hands moving like memory. "Manual cut," he said, dropping to a conduit hatch. "What are you doing?" Lily hissed. "Something stupid and necessary." He popped the cover. Heat licked his knuckles. He flinched, then set his jaw and pulled a pair of cables in sequence like he was stealing fire from a god. Exhaled, the hum died. Tick slowed to a sultry metronome. "Clear," Control said. "Basement draw 0. The agent nodded once. "Catalog starts now." She turned to Lily. "Anything else we should know?" Lee stared at the shard in his bag. "There's a cassette. My mother's voice, I think." Victoria had already clocked it. She plucked the tape with 2 fingers and held it up for the Bodicam. "Label reads Alienate." Clocked it. She plucked the tape with 2 fingers and held it up for the Bodicam. "Label reads Alienate/host stand/112 a.m., she said. 19 years ago. She didn't meet Lily's eyes. It was almost mercy. Upstairs, a rumor detonated. Agents on the floor, boxes sealed, locket gone. The city's favorite restaurant breathing into an evidence bag. The press room fed on itself. Charles adjusted to the new script with athletic grace, cooperating, nodding, amused that anyone would imagine he didn't enjoy transparency. But something in his shoulders tightened when Control reported the basement going dark without permission. "Mr. Whitmore," the lead agent said, returning to the podium, "you're under arrest for obstruction of justice and destruction of records. Additional charges pending." The room gasped in a tone usually reserved for births. Charles lifted his chin. "This is performative," he said. "You'll apologize by noon." "You'll be arraigned by noon," the agent said. The cuffs clicked with the intimacy of a necklace. Cameras 8. Lily emerged with the team into a hallway that suddenly looked like a memory. Ryan's knuckles were scraped, the skin angry. Victoria walked alongside with the neutrality she had bought at great cost. "You burned yourself," Lily said to Ryan. He shrugged. "I've done worse on espresso machines." "You did good," she said. He blinked like the words hit an organ that didn't know its job. They reached the press room as the perp walk assembled. Charles scanned the faces like a king taking attendance at his own funeral. His gaze found Lily. The smile he gave her was almost gentle. "You could have been extraordinary," he said softly, passing close enough that the cologne remembered her. "I still might," she said, his jaw flexed. "Not in my city." "Then I'll build another," she replied, shocking herself in him. He walked. Flashbulbs invented lightning. Someone cheered, someone hissed, someone prayed. The city did all three. August appeared at Lily's shoulder like a good instinct. "We got the canisters?" he asked. "We did," the agent answered, "and something for her." She handed Lily a claim receipt for evidence access. "You'll hear from us." "I'll answer," Lily said. Her voice was raw and clean. The room exhaled into interviews and chaos. Jace ghosted by long enough to tap the shard bag with one knuckle. "You broke him," he said. "No," Lily answered. "I interrupted him." "Same rhythm," Jace said, and vanished, a rumor returning to circulation. For a moment, just a moment, the adrenaline receded and grief rushed the stage. Lily sank onto a service crate and let the tears come, not loud, not graceful, just true. Ryan crouched, useless hands hovering, then resting on his knees. "You don't have to be brave right now," he said. She wiped her face and laughed once. "I'm not, I'm hollow." He nodded. "Hollow keeps you light enough to run." Victoria watched them from the doorway, unreadable as tempered glass. She approached with a small white envelope. "Chain of custody," she said dryly, and offered it to Lily. "What is it?" Lily asked. "Copy of a birth certificate fragment that survived a clerical fire," Victoria said. "The registrar owed me a favor. It won't tell you who your father is. It will tell you where to look for who decided you shouldn't know." "What?" Lily held the envelope like it could burn. "Why help me now?" Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Because when men fall, they make noise. When networks fall, they make change." She glanced toward the doors where Charles had disappeared into the machine. "And because you're going to need an enemy who knows how your enemies think." The agent called to Lily from across the room. "We'll need you downtown in an hour." "I'll be there," Lily said. Ryan stood, offered his uninjured hand. She took it, a choice that felt small and enormous. "After," he said, "we find B-17's donor." "HM," she said, the initial stink of power. They walked toward the street. Sirens receded. Outside, the city had the bright, stunned look of people leaving a matinee into noon. A kid on a scooter recognized Lily from somewhere he couldn't place and gave her a thumbs up like a benediction. She almost smiled. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo, the oval locket whole again, its hinge repaired, resting on a wooden table scarred by time. A hand woman's held it open. Inside, a tiny portrait of Elena. The text, "Stop asking Whitmore for answers he never had. Tonight, 9 p.m., the daily grind. Come alone." Lily stared at the screen until the city blurred. "Who is it?" Ryan asked. "Someone who knows where the locket lives," she said, "and wants to meet at my old coffee shop." August sucked in a breath. "The barista who remembers every name," he said softly, "or the owner who never forgets a face." Lily folded the envelope, the receipt, the shard bag into her jacket like new ribs. She looked back once through the glass at the room that had eaten and spit out a king. Then she turned toward whatever waited at 9. From Lily Morgan's recorded statement, transcribed the week after the gala. 9 p.m. tastes like burnt espresso and rain when I push through the door of the daily grind. The bell gives a tired jingle. Same chalkboard jokes, same threadbare rug that always tries to trip me, same hum of laptops pretending to study. A table in the corner is claimed by a woman with a paper cup and a scarred wooden box the size of a book. Her hands are steady. Her face is the memory I kept trying to downgrade into a dream. "Lily," she says. I don't sit, I just stand there useless as the ground tilts and corrects. The locket hangs at her throat, hinge repaired, silver bright, small as a moon. "Mom," I say, and the word finally doesn't echo. Elena Ward rises and I fall into her, a clumsy, shaking collision that smells like coffee and wind in a life that didn't end. For a long moment the city goes quiet. Heartbeats make their old argument. She holds my face in both palms and takes inventory. Eyes scar above my brow, the stubborn line of my mouth that never learned surrender. "I wanted to come sooner," she says, voice steady because one of us has to be. "There are people who count on me staying gone." "What?" You disappeared, I tell her, because the child in me is late to the scene and loud. You left. I kept looking for the door you took. I refused to sign a lie, she says, so they tried to make me into silence. She gestures at the box. Sit. Let me show you what happens when a lie forgets to finish itself. We sit. She opens the box. Inside, a cassette deck older than me, a shoebox of microfilm canisters, a spiral notebook thick with dates. The locket glows like a punctuation mark. Wait, I say, HM is he. Thick with dates. The locket glows like a punctuation mark. Wait, I say, HM is he. Not your father, she says, immediate clean. Your father was Noah Morgan, dishwasher, poet. He died the winter you turned 5. I left because Whitmore and HM needed me to swear a child wasn't someone else. I wouldn't, it wasn't mine to swear. By morning my locker was empty and my name was out of their mouths. HM, I ask. Harlan Morrow, she says, and the room seems to lean as if the name carries weight. Old money turned candidate, donor turned kingmaker. His money launched Whitmore's second location. His appetite created a mess they papered with trusts. Another woman signed, I wouldn't, that's the page you found. Why the locket in his vault? Debate the next truth, she says softly. Whitmore learned that artifacts are better handcuffs than contracts. I touch the locket without touching it. The shard in the drawer, why send it? So you'd believe the rest, she says. Open it. I do. Inside, 2 tiny photos face each other like a bridge. Me at 3 with a gummy grin and bangs cut by a brave aunt. Alina not much older than I am now. Under the photos, a paper scrap hidden by the backing, a storage key shaved thin as a thumbnail, engraved with a number 41A and a word violet. Look is that, I say. Alina clicks the deck alive. Tape hiss fills the corners. Then her voice, 19 years younger, threads the room. If you're hearing this, the younger her says, breathy but unbroken, it means I failed to stay loud enough. Lily, you were sleeping. I watched your chest rise and fall, and I promised you one thing. I would not let my fear sign your future. If men ask you to carry their secrets, set them down. If they build an archive, steal the index. If they say you were born to be quiet, laugh. I pinch the bridge of my nose, useless at stopping tears. Alina squeezes my hand. We listen to the tape run to its hard click, then sit in the quiet afterward like it knows something we don't. I kept a waitress job under a name that didn't belong to me, Alina says. I learned who Harlan shook hands with when cameras were sleeping. I learned which storage units weren't on the map. Violet is one of his. 41A is not a number he thinks anyone knows. I thought I'd already cracked the vault, I say, half laughing, half ready to run until the night changes shape. You cracked Whitmore, she says. Morrow is the locksmith. The bell over the door rings. My spine snaps straight. Ryan steps in, damp hair, cautious hands visible. Behind him, August waits on the sidewalk, playing lookout with the casual grace of old waiters. Alina doesn't flinch. He's safe, I say, surprising myself, mostly. Ryan takes in Alina like a man reading aloud in a language he used to speak. Miss Ward, he says, sincere, I'm sorry. For which part, Alina asks, not cruel, not gentle. For all the parts, he answers. She nods once, then help me finish one. We form a working circle, mother, daughter, ghost, son of a fallen king. Alina outlines the plan with the calm that comes from having no other choice. Violet 41A isn't at Northline. It's at a private facility in Long Island City where the guard knows only the first name of whoever's paying him. The key in the locket opens the inner bin. The microfilm in her box holds copies of pages that will scare expensive lawyers. The cassette holds a timestamp that places a donor in the wrong room the night a signature waited. You two go, Alina says. I'll stay and make noise here. I'm good at disappearing loud. I'm not leaving you, I say. I didn't leave you, she answers, soft iron. I'm asking you to move faster than I can. Ryan checks the time. We have a 6-hour window, he says. Security shifts at 2. The guard gets bored at 4. Board guards are generous. Then we go now, I say. Alina closes my fingers around the locket. When you're in there, if you have to choose between proving me right and keeping yourself whole, choose yourself, she says. I can live with the rest. We stand. I hug her again longer until my lungs complain. August taps the window and mouths go. Outside, the city has that blue midnight that doesn't belong to clocks. We slide into a borrowed sedan that smells like tan leather and somebody else's music. Ryan drives. I hold the locket like a talisman and the claim receipt like a promise. What if we open it and it's nothing? I ask. Then we close it and write something better, he says, but it won't be nothing. Queen slides by in sodium vapor and silence. The facility looms beige and bored beside a comic book skyline. Ryan palms the gate with the Codalina slit across the table. The guard barely looks up from his phone. Violet lives behind an interior cage. The key is cold in my fingers, then warm, then true. The lock turns. The drawer slides. Inside, a slim fireproof binder, a velvet pouch, a thumb drive with a purple stripe. The binder opens on a familiar impatience, HM in every margin. There are donor ledgers, a schedule of chef's scholarships that smell like laundering, a calendar that puts Harlan Morrow in the private dining room the night Linga's page was drafted. The pouch holds a ring, governor's signet engraved inside, HM/CW/victory. My skin growls. Copy it all, Ryan says, fast. He feeds pages into a portable scanner he stole from a life he's trying to quit. I thumb through dates and see a future forming, hearings, headlines, a man who thought he owned appetite swallowing his own name. I pocket the thumb drive. We work quietly, fast enough to outrun doubt, slow enough to avoid mistakes. When we're done, I tuck one last thing into my jacket, a note in Harlan's looping hand that reads, simply, Alina knows. We relock, we leave without running. At the curb, my phone lights, unknown number again. You're not finished, it says. When you're ready to burn brighter, bring the binder to the Whitmore Foundation Gala Friday. Black tie, masks optional. Trap, Ryan asks, reading over my shoulder. Stage, I say. They think I don't know the difference anymore. He studies me, do you? I look down at the locker, at the tiny photos touching like a bridge, at the shard in its evidence bag, at the night refusing to end. Yes, I say. We drive back toward Manhattan, toward mothers who refuse to be erased and monsters who have learned to fear paper. I rest my forehead on the cool glass and let the city scroll. I don't know yet who will stand with me at the gala, or what mask I'll wear, or how loud the room will be when I say Harlan Morrow's name into a microphone meant for toasts. I only know the locket is warm now, like a small engine, and the tape has stopped hissing because it doesn't need to. The rest is air and courage. The river opens, the skyline invents teeth. Somewhere below, another vault remembers me. And I'm ready to open it. Friday arrives like a dare. By dusk, the city has lacquered itself in rain and glass, and the Whitmore Foundation Gala turns the Crystal Pavilion into a jewel box, spotlights skating over marble, a string quartet sugaring the air, masks glinting like polite lies. I touch the locket at my throat. It's warm, a small engine, a private S. Ryan adjusts his bow tie in the blacked-out window of a catering van. Once you step on that stage, he says, there's no door marked back. There never was, I answer, and slide the binder into a hollow cookbook we've cut to fit. The thumb drive sits in my clutch. Microfilm lives with August, who drifts in carrying a tray like he was born to look invisible. Jace's fog, he texted. I assume that means he's everywhere Wi-Fi is. A message pings Victoria. Cue is when the quartet stops. Claire de Lune. Meet stage left. Don't grandstand. Detonate. Inside, the room hums with donors and daylight television faces. White peonies explode out of vases like engineered innocence. Harlan Morrow is taller than the photos, hair silvered into credibility, mask dangling from one finger as if transparency were a hobby. He works the room with a campaignsman's muscle memory, then mounts the steps like a man ascending to collect a debt. Friends, he says, voice rich as a lobby. Tonight we honor the temple that feeds the city, food, culture, and courage. The foundation will expand scholarships for young chefs. Chef scholarships, I whisper to Ryan, thinking of the ledger entries that smelled like laundering, the dates that lined up with donations and votes. And we reaffirm our commitment to stewardship. He smiles into the cameras that suddenly don't belong to him. Our archive protects the stories that make us who we are. The quartet leans into the phrase that means my heart should leave my body. The last note of Claire de Lune hangs like a held breath. I move. Stage left is a throat of curtain and shadow. Victoria waits in a black gown that looks like a verdict. You're late, she murmurs. It's her way of saying. She slides a small transmitter into my palm. If they cut the house feed, this routes audio to 3 independent live streams. Say what can't be unsaid. What's your price? I ask. She smiles without softness, seeing men discover they're mortal. We step into light. The room tilts, corrects. Morrow's smile barely falters. And here he purrs, her beneficiary of our hospitality, Miss Lily Morgan. That last name flips through the crowd like a rumor beaching itself. I take the podium. Ryan edges into the wings, a shadow wearing a conscience. August stations near the press riser. Jace Fogg perches in the balcony with the camera tucked in a bouquet. Good evening, I say. The mic warms my mouth. I serve water and stories at Whitmore Prime. 7 months. I've learned that in this city, secrets have a coat check. A tremor runs through the room. Laughter, discomfort, tension. Tonight I'm returning a ticket. I open the cookbook. The binder inside gleams like a throat. This archive isn't recipes. It's leverage, trust routings through a fund called New Albion, money shuttled as scholarships that end in votes, a ring engraved HM/CW/victory like a frat prank that got elected. A rustle moves across silk. Someone coughs a name they shouldn't. Morrow chuckles paternal. Mivs. Morgan has read fan fiction. I click the transmitter on. A green diode winks approval. Then listen to nonfiction. I hold up the cassette redubbed from microfilm. A 19-year-old recording. Timestamp the night Aleida Ward vanished from payroll. Play it. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then Victoria nods once. The AV tech she commandeered hits a key. Speakers bloom with tape hiss and a younger Alina's steady voice. If you're hearing this, it means I failed to stay loud enough. If men ask you to carry in their secrets, set them down. If they build an archive, steal the index. If they say you were born to be quiet, laugh. The sound knocks breath out of people who didn't know they were holding it. Morrow's smile fractures, then reassembles into offended dignity. We cannot authenticate. Authenticate this, I say, sliding a page under the camera. Donor ledger, HM initials in the margin, dates that kiss election filings. Or this, I add, flashing the calendar that puts him in the private dining room, the night Alina's page was drafted. He goes still, then he remembers how the game is played. Ladies and gentlemen, he says, turning his back to me and facing money, this is the cost of being visible in a cruel age. Visibility didn't route cash through a charity, I say, no longer caring about decorum as a sport. People did, you did. The house lights blink, not a blackout, just a threat. My transmitter's diode stays green. Jace's feed, I know, is chewing the night into a million phones. The press senses blood and stops pretending to be polite. Morrow tries the last defense, petty. Miss Morgan, you're grieving your mother. She's here, I say. The room lurches. Alina steps from the aisle in a black suit, the color of seriousness, mask in her hand, eyes on the only man whose name ever tried to erase her. She climbs the steps slower than a movie star, faster than grief. I meet her halfway. The locket at her throat catches the light and returns it without apology. I refuse to sign, she says into the mic, voice even. That was my only crime. I refused to certify a lie about a child's father and about a donor's money. The next morning I was gone. She doesn't look at Morrow, counted on time to erase me. It doesn't. A sound moves through the room that isn't applause and isn't shock. It's recognition, thick and dangerous. Morrow goes for outrage. This is defamation. The doors open, badges arrive, not the same jackets as the other day. These wear the state's crest. The Attorney General's people fan out with a comm of paperwork on a mission. The lead steps to the edge of the stage. Mr. Morrow, we have a warrant for the seizure of records and devices associated with New Albion and the Whitmore Foundation. Morrow laughs, almost relieved to have an enemy he recognizes. We'll crush it in court. Maybe, she says, but you'll carry it there. Well, Victoria leans into the mic with surgical gentleness. Counsel for the Foundation welcomes clarity, she says. We've preserved materials. Morrow turns on her. You. I represent the Foundation, she replies, which sounds like choosing a side because it is. For a heartbeat, I feel joy as an almost physical weight, gravity that pulls the truth into its rightful place. Then Morrow does what men like him always do when the words stop working. He tries to find a smaller room. As he steps back, he passes me, close enough that I can smell the cologne he thinks reads as Morrow. He says it without moving his lips. You still don't know who tore the face from that photo. I keep my eyes on the Attorney General. I don't need the face, I whisper. I have the voice. He smiles, reptile patient. Ask your waiter. It's cheap and mean and designed to bleed doubt into trust. I turn too fast toward the wings where August watches with old soldier stillness. He flinches at nothing. Ryan catches my look, understands the ugliness of what was just planted, and shakes his head once. No. We copy everything. Jace texts my screen from the balcony, as if he saw the doubt leave a mark. We trust after. Agents begin reading people their rights. A camera catches the ring inside a bag, the engraving M/CW/victory, a tiny parable of hubris. The quartet, unsure, starts an upbeat tune and dies halfway through it. The donors discover how heavy silence is when it isn't expensive. I step back to the mic one last time. You can arrest a man, I say, voice steadier than the tremor in my hands, but a network requires daylight. So here, the thumb drive is mirrored to 3 newsrooms in the AG's cloud. Microfilm sits with counsel. If I vanish, the index doesn't. Applause starts in a shiver and rises into something that feels like a city waking up. Not everyone claps, enough do. Morrow is escorted down the steps. He doesn't look back. The room exhales into heat and noise, and 100 new enemies memorizing my face. Backstage, Alina holds me, and for once survival isn't a solo sport. Ryan joins us, shoulders lowered like a man who put a piece of himself where a machine used to be. He tried to throw shade at August, I say. He wants us to eat our own. Then we won't, Ryan answers. We'll eat his calendar. Victoria slides in, composed, eyes bright the way cut glass is. You detonated, she says. Try breathing between explosions. Why help me this hard, I ask. Because he thought I was furniture, she answers simply. Because I'm not. Sirens recede. The gala reassembles itself into something it doesn't deserve to be, a party with a story. The AG asks Alina for a statement. I hand over the thumb drive. Cameras catch only our silhouettes as we walk toward a smaller, kinder room. My phone buzzes one more time. Unknown number. A photo of the torn print, only now the missing face is visible, taped back from a second copy. The caption, you're not done until you ask him why he stood in that mirror. Meet me where you first saw the safe. Midnight. The locket warms against my skin. I nod to no one. The night isn't finished with us, and I'm not finished with it. From the same statement, continuation. Midnight turns Whitmore Prime into Museum of Ghosts. Yawning sighs, the street holds its breath. I slip through the service alley with the locket warm against my skin and the thumb drive sitting in my pocket like a small, polite bomb. The stainless panel waits where it always waits, pretending to be architecture instead of appetite. A new lock blinks federal blue. A shadow steps out of the dark and raises both hands. Easy Lily, Jay says. The text was me, but the question wasn't mine. Then whose? His, Jace answers, chin flicking toward the loading bay. August Cole stands there in a pea coat and a look that knows exactly how much a memory weighs. He doesn't try a smile. He just nods once, as if we've been agreeing to meet here for 19 years. You sent the photo, I say, the mirror at the host stand. I stood there, he answers, because mirrors remember angles people don't. Why? My voice wants to be kind. It doesn't manage it. Because I was afraid, he says simply, of Morrow's fixer, of losing the only job I'd ever been allowed to be good at, of being the reason a young mother disappeared. He looks at the door that once hid a church of lovebirds. Then I became the reason anyway. The panel clunks, the federal lock goes green. Victoria Hale steps into the corridor in a long black coat, phone in one hand, a small, boxy camera in the other. An assistant attorney general trails her, carrying a ledger of forms like a portable courthouse. Victoria's eyes take us in as if we're depositions she expected to take years later. We are not here, she says, but if we were, we would be recording a voluntary statement. No tricks, I ask. Only tape, the AAG says, producing a dated microrecorder. Plain, boring truth. August laces his fingers together like a man remembering grace. I was told to stall Alina the night the page was drafted. I stood at the host stand, right where that convex mirror caught anyone who approached the office, and I told her to wait because Mr. Whitmore will be right out. He never was, Moore was. He walked in through the private door and walked out with a promise that smelled like money. He swallows. I took the mirror shot because I needed to hate myself accurately. Victoria's face doesn't change. Who ordered the shred? Not Whitmore, August says. His fixer did. The shredder jammed. I pocketed what survived. The shard of the locket. The receipt with the wrong date. The audio you heard tonight was a copy of a copy I made because I didn't know what else to do with terror. What? And Alina, I ask. I told her not to come back, he whispers. Then I helped carry boxes to a friend's car and pretended the trunk was just a trunk. He rubs his face. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm asking the record to remember properly. The AAG nods, satisfied by the shape of his ruin. Victoria gestures toward the panel. We can't open the vault. It's sealed, but there's something else. She leads us to the host stand, past rope stanchions that once kept the hungry from seating themselves near power. She kneels, pries a thin strip of wood free, and reveals a cavity small as paperback. Inside, a key wrapped in wax paper and an envelope addressed in the same hand as Alina's cassette. For the one who returns with a question, I read. My fingers shake. I open it. A single, clean photograph slides out. Elena at the host's stand, head tilted, eyes fierce, and over her shoulder, the convex mirror catches the man who stood there pretending to be furniture. It is Whitmore. It isn't Morrow, it's the fixer, the one who never had a byline, never sat at a microphone, always lived at the edge of other men's wants. The back of the photo bears a name inked without fear, Richard Yayan. The AAG exhales like someone whose map suddenly has a legend. We've been chasing a ghost with a wallet, she says. Now he has a face. Victoria's smile is small and private. He ran security at 3 foundations and 2 campaigns, she says. He thinks he's unrecorded. He isn't anymore. We walk back into the night. The city feels lighter by an ounce you wouldn't notice unless you carried it for years. By noon the next day, the Attorney General unseals an indictment, Harlan Morrow, for fraud, conspiracy, and violations of election law. The ring is bagged. The scholarships are rebranded as evidence. Donors claim surprise, then hire counsel. The press stops calling the archive charming and starts calling it what it always was, a tool. Charles Whitmore pleads not guilty, then quieter, as Pord resigns in order of self-preservation. Whitmore Prime shudders. Staff lines wrap around an HR table while a court-appointed trustee explains back pay. Ryan testifies, knuckles healing, last name said aloud for the record and then gently put away. Your Honor, he tells the court, I am here because appetite without ethics steals the word home. The stenographer looks up like she knows. She think of that sentence when she can't sleep. Victoria resigns from the foundation with a letter that reads like a scalpel. Then she sits on a panel about corporate ethics and says nothing until the camera is off. I prefer action, she tells me, amused and tired. Words are for when the paper is already sharp. Elena stands in daylight and doesn't flinch. She gives a statement, measured and whole, and then goes back to work at the daily grind because she likes the way regular customers' names make a room honest. Sometimes people recognize her and cry. She lets them. It isn't my job to hold their grief, she tells me, but I can hold their coffee. I sell my story to no one. I write it and publish it with bylines that won't get me fancy dinners, just readers who want receipts. A local paper gives me a column. A national magazine offers me a fact-checking gig because trust is muscle, not magic. I learn the difference between a leak and a source. I learn how to sleep again. Ryan waits for me outside the newsroom in the kind of weather that makes city lights look like they're listening. I don't know the ending, he says. I only know the next good step. We take it, I say. We talk to a therapist who doesn't care about last names. We skip 3 holidays and then keep the 4th. We walk past the shuttered restaurant and don't look in. We look forward, which is an angle everyone forgets until they need it. One quiet morning, Elena and I sit on the bench outside the coffee shop with the locket open between us, the tiny photos facing each other like a bridge that never learned fear. Do you ever wish we had known sooner? I ask. Knowing early and knowing well aren't the same, she says. We did the second part. The state subpoenas Richard Klein. He arrives with a lawyer who has the posture of a man allergic to sunlight. He pleads once, twice, then watches the evidence tighten around him like a patient he underestimated. His friends remove his number from their phones. His face disappears from the convex mirrors he used to patrol. That is the bitter end, not cages, but absence. Jace texts me selfies from obscure rooftops and refuses every invitation to be photographed on purpose. Fog is safer, he writes. August wears a suit to court, tells the truth into a room that wants it, and returns to a life where people tip him for kindness instead of invisibility. When I hug him afterward, he shakes like someone finally putting a box down. The AG's office opens a unit to audit archives. The first restaurant that volunteers turns its safe into a scholarship fund for kids who didn't think culinary school was their door. I write about them too. The stories taste different, better. On a gray afternoon, Victoria meets me at the river and hands me a thin, unmarked envelope. Chain of custody, she says, smiling like a cliff. Inside, a single sentence on official letterhead. The department has verified that violet materials match ledgers seized from New Albion. Beneath it, a note in her hand. Eat well tonight. We do. Elena cooks soup that tastes like the kind of winter people survive together. Ryan pours water like it's sacrament. I light a candle without wishing, then blow it out anyway. Before I sleep, my phone chirps. Unknown number, the last thread of a web that finally stopped catching me. Another mirror waits in another city. Don't build a vault, build a door. I put the phone face down, close the locket, and let the room remember how quiet can be good. The safe is sealed, the story is open, and the next door, when it appears, won't close behind me. It will open for someone else.